Okay, hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm in a completely different setup. So thank you to my boyfriend because he set all this up for me. Thank you if you're watching Theo, which I'm sure he will be because I make him watch all my videos. Okay, so today I'm talking about Chappell Roan. As you can tell by the title, there's been a lot of drama surrounding her recently, and I think this whole discussion is really interesting, so let's get into it and kind of see what's going on. The first flame to this fire was when she appeared on Alex Cooper's podcast Call Her Daddy, where Chappell talked about how she thought it was impossible to be politically active within her own fan base and also be a pop star. So this was obviously criticised because Chappell has been frequently active in the LGBTQ+ community and vocalised this consistently throughout her performances and social media. One of them being at the Governor's Ball Music Festival, where she came out on stage dressed as the Statue of Liberty, which, if you don't know, is a statue in New York which is meant to represent democracy and freedom. She announced in drag as the biggest queen of them all, and then went on to say, "That means freedom in trans rights, that means freedoms for women, and especially means freedoms for all oppressed people in occupied territories." So I think it's safe to say that Chappell is comfortable speaking up in these situations and does so unapologetically. This did kind of set a precedent within her own fan base that she was comfortable speaking up and raising awareness for marginalised communities. And I think it's only natural that the thought progression went on to be that they would expect that from her more frequently within her artistry and also just within her own person. When we think of celebrities who are so privileged in so many aspects of their lives, we hold them to a standard that we may not even hold ourselves to, whether that's fair or not. If they get to live their life doused in privilege and comfort, then I think it's only rational that we expect them to be someone worthy of fame and success. So while I understand that obviously she faces a lot of pressure, I don't think there's any room for ambiguity when it comes to who you support or who you endorse, especially in the world we live in today, because it's no longer a difference in opinion, it's the difference between peace and flourishing versus violence and suffering. I have noticed when it comes to how we view celebrities and how we view that fame and glamour has changed drastically, especially when it comes to the disparity of wealth in a time where war and famine and just a never-ending struggle continues to affect much of the world. A lot of people are tired about hearing how hard the shackles of fame are, especially from people who chose this life for themselves. I am a fan of Chappell's music and her artistry. I think she's insanely talented and she is kind of a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways. She's different from what I think we're used to seeing, especially when it comes to female performers. And some of the boundaries that she attempts to set in Hollywood and within the music industry are admirable. I think the problem that many people have with these boundaries is the attention she gives it when it fails, which I think completely dismantles her entire intentions. So I'm going to show you a video from Suja, who is a TikTok creator, and I think this kind of perfectly wraps up what I'm trying to say here.
Here's the issue. The issue is not setting the boundaries. If Chappell Roan wants to set boundaries, do it. In fact, I think it's great. Look, she doesn't like being harassed and treated like a piece of meat and being screamed at by paparazzi. By all means, set the boundary. The problem is she's very bad at executing the boundary. The boundary is, if you treat me this way and you harass me and make me feel unsafe, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to leave, which worked when she did it at the Grammys. She put out a statement, or her team did, and said, if you guys scream at Chappell Roan, she's going to leave. That set the boundary to the point where Sabrina Carpenter credited Chappell Roan and said, like, you know, the Grammy red carpet was much more calm, it was much more relaxed, and it was much more pleasant because, you know, this boundary was set. So it worked. You were clear. This is the boundary. I don't like this, and if you do this, I'm going to do this. That's what boundaries are. Uncomplicated. But then we have Paris, and she's surrounded by paparazzi, and instead of executing her boundary because she was uncomfortable, she pulls out her phone and she's telling everybody how terrible it is, and she's so upset, and, you know, she's filming them, and it's this performance. It's not execution. That's when things start getting really murky, and she's kind of cultivated this culture around herself where every interaction with the fan feels like an affront. And, you know, every unwanted gaze is a violation. Every, you know, fan that comes up to her is now a threat. And she's created this culture around herself where she's always feeling like on the defense.
A comment from that video also said, Therapist here, a boundary does not mean other people need to change their behaviour. The boundary is yours, and the follow through, as you mentioned, is also yours. Which I think perfectly describes the issue here. Do I think Chappell should be harassed in the street with people and cameras? No, obviously not. But to reiterate Sujia, we cannot change other people's behaviours, only our reaction, which is of course true for anyone, not just celebrities. I also think it's important that we recognise that boundaries for super famous people aren't the same boundaries that you could set if you're just the average person. Being super famous is inherently not private. You can't be well known and have this extreme privacy unless you go by a pseudonym or never show your face. So some great examples of this is Sia. I'm not a Sia fan, but she did disguise herself from the public for years, and we only ever really come to know her as a woman in a white wig that covered her face, and you wouldn't even really know a lot about her. I think you can find pictures of her face, but that was 20 years ago, so obviously things change now, and she's just not a person that you're used to seeing out in public. So if you were to see her out in public with no wig on, then I don't think you would recognise her at all. So it is possible for you to do that, and I think in a position of Chappell's where she does have the money and the privilege to be able to do that, if that's something that she really values in her life and in her career, then she should spend the time and the money and give it the energy it deserves if she really wants this outcome for herself. Another really great example of being very well known but also staying quite private is Banksy. Obviously, Banksy has been around since the early 90s, and to this day nobody knows who he is, what he looks like, just that he is an incredible artist who is very politically active. He has a message that he wants to put out to the world. So I'm going to show you a video that Sujia was referring to, and it is a video of Chappell entering a restaurant in Paris during Paris Fashion Week.
So I'm just trying to go to dinner, and I've asked these people several times to get away from me.
Please step to the side. Step to the side.
This person I've asked several times to go away, and they will not. They're hiding their face because they're ashamed. Because I've asked them. These are all the people that are
Can you sign
completely disregarding all of my boundaries.
My first time to see you, Chappell. This is my first time to see you.
Then go away.
Happy to see you.
So all of you, I'm asking you kindly to please leave me alone and stop following me and harassing me.
Can you just sign?
Thank you.
What are you wearing,
No,
Chappell?
I'm not gonna sign. Thank you.
Okay,
So
Chappell, no
this
problem.
is
You
what
have your
it's
choice,
like
yeah.
If you're wondering how it is.
And what are you wearing?
Thank you.
Fashion icon.
Fashion this.
icon.
I just think it comes across as a little bit silly, because she must know that by doing that, by getting out her phone and trying to record them and kind of explaining like this is what it's like to be a pop star, that's only going to spur them on more. It may not be fair that that's what happens afterwards, but that's true. Like, you are antagonizing the situation, and that's what the paparazzi feed off. They feed off the drama. On one hand, I can understand why she's annoyed. If you're just wanting to go to dinner and you don't want to be disturbed by people, okay, I get why that would be annoying. But you won't be able to convince me that she didn't anticipate that paparazzi or fans would be there, and that she didn't have endless other options to choose from when it came to going out to eat dinner. So the whole reason Chappell was in Paris was for Paris Fashion Week, which Paris Fashion Week is quite literally the biggest fashion event of the year. It's probably arguably the biggest fashion event in the industry, and it is probably one of the most documented events in the fashion industry. So it does feel like she is complaining about a situation that she willfully entered into. And if she had just walked straight through, ignored them, I mean, you can clearly tell from that video that the space between her car and the door is not much at all. She could have darted through there in 5 seconds. So here's a perfect example of Chappell's boundaries being discussed on the red carpet, and then what happens when those boundaries are crossed.
Okay, Chappell's coming. No one will yell at her, or she will be so quiet. Everyone be quiet, be nice, smiley.
Don't get violent for the night.
Can you do a spin for us, please? Fantastic.
The intention of this video kind of came across like just trying to hate on Chappell, which I don't think in this instance is entirely fair, because like I said, she states what will happen if if they're being rude to Chappell, they won't get their photo, which obviously is their job and that's what they need to make money. So there's obviously an incentive for both parties to do what they need to do without having any drama or disrespect. A comment from this video reads, "Would you look at that? They can still do their jobs and get great photos by saying please and not screaming at her. It's almost like we all deserve respect when we're working." It's a great point, and I entirely agree with that statement, but it makes it seem like Chappell didn't understand what she was entering into when she spent 10 years trying to become the global superstar that she is today. So the most recent drama surrounding Chappell has come from a statement from a footballer, Jorginho, after he claimed that her security guard made his daughter cry. So the full statement that he put on his Instagram story reads, "I went through a very upsetting situation with my family earlier today. My wife is in Sao Paulo for Lollapalooza. This morning, my daughter woke up incredibly excited. She even made a sign because she was so happy to see an artist she really admires, or used to admire, Chappell Roan. By coincidence, they're staying at the same hotel as this artist. During breakfast, the artist walked past their table. My daughter, like any child, recognised her, got excited, and just wanted to make sure it was really her. And the worst part is she didn't even approach her. She simply walked past the singer's table, looked to confirm it was her, smiled, and went back to sit with her mum. She didn't say anything, she didn't ask for anything. What happened next was completely disproportionate. A large security guard came over to their table while they were still having breakfast and began speaking in an extremely aggressive manner to both my wife and my daughter, saying that she shouldn't allow my daughter to disrespect or harass other people. Honestly, I don't know at what point simply walking past a table and looking to see if someone is there can be considered harassment. He even said he would file a complaint against the hotel while my 11-year-old daughter was sitting there in tears. My daughter was extremely shaken and cried a lot. I've lived with football, public exposure and well-known people for many years, and I understand very well what respect and boundaries are. What happened there was not that. It was just a child admiring someone. It's sad to see this kind of treatment coming from those who should understand the importance of their fans. At the end of the day, they are the ones who build all of this. I sincerely hope that this served as a moment of reflection. No one should have to go through this, especially a child. Chappell Roan, without your fans, you would be nothing. And to the fans, she does not deserve your affection." Jorginho's wife, Catherine, also posted a video explaining her side of the story.
Hi guys, good morning. I wanted to say something because I'm getting so many messages about this now. A lot of people ask me like what actually happened and everything else, and I know that Chappell has responded saying that it wasn't it wasn't her security and that she didn't do it. So 100% this security guard was not a security guard of the hotel. That's what I can say. He looks after artists, so I don't know if it was her personal security guard, but he was with her. So that is all I know. Did she send him to do it? Again, I don't know. Look, I would like to hope not, but at the same time, I think that you have a responsibility when you are a celebrity to make sure, I guess, that the people that work for you and that act on your behalf are acting on your behalf. So would he do that if he didn't have her authority to do so? I don't know. If he does, then obviously that's a big problem, because then he's representing her in a way that she doesn't want to be represented. So I think that's really important for her to notice and realize that's not correct. What happened, exactly as she said, she didn't notice anything or anyone because as my husband said, nothing happened. We noticed a girl walk past with long red hair, very curly, and I said to my daughter, "Oh, do you think that's Chappell Roan?" And she looked and she said, "Oh my God, Mum, do you think it's her?" And so she said, "I'm gonna go and have a look outside." And so I went back to the table to sit and eat, and my daughter walked through the door. She didn't have her phone, she didn't try to take a picture, she didn't approach her, she literally didn't do anything. She just looked at her and smiled, and she came back and she actually said to me, "Mum, I don't know if it's her," because obviously she looks like, you know, with her costumes and everything, she looks a little bit different. So my daughter said, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if it was her. I think it was her mum. It really looks like her, but I don't know. Maybe it's her sister. Then came the security guard, had a very aggressive tone, and I feel like if she did not send him, I mean, even if she did send him or she didn't send him, I don't know. For me, I feel like it really overstepped a boundary, because he is quite an intimidating. He is very large. So for him to come over to a table with just a woman and her daughter eating breakfast, berate and scold us and say that he was going to complain and tell me that I should be teaching my daughter to be better and that she's badly educated and we should respect people's privacy and we should not harass people and all of these other things. And I did try and explain to him the situation, that she's a child and she was just very excited to see her an artist and singer that she admires, and can he not understand that was all she was doing. And I did actually say to him at the time, I said, well, if this is the case that she doesn't even want people to look at her, she is very welcome to eat breakfast in her room, because this here is a public area and I am a paying guest as well as her. So if I want to walk past someone's table and look at them, I have every right to do so. Maybe if it wasn't her, that she learns to not allow the people that work for her to treat people like this. And yeah, that's the end of it.
It is hard to say what actually happened at that hotel, obviously. We weren't there. I am going to give Chappell the benefit of the doubt here and believe that she didn't ask security to say something to this child. I think that's maybe the most probable explanation for what happened here, because this isn't an appropriate response to something like that. So it is logical to think that maybe we're not being told the full story, or something's gotten lost in translation between Chappell and her team, or whoever this security detail was. So since then, Chappell came out with a statement on her TikTok where she explains that the security guard was not even a part of her team, that she didn't know that any child had come up to her, that there was no problem on her part, and she apologised.
I'm just going to tell my half of the story of what happened today with a mother and child who were involved with a security guard who is not my personal security. I didn't even see a woman and a child. Like, no one came up to me. No one bothered me. Like, I was just sitting at breakfast in my hotel. I think these people were staying at the hotel as well. So the fact that, like, a security guard I did not ask the security guard to go up and talk to this mother and child. They did not come up to me. They weren't doing anything. It's unfair for security to just assume someone doesn't have good intentions when they have no reason to believe, because there's no action even taken. Like, I do not hate people who are fans of my music. I do not hate children. Like, that is crazy. I'm sorry to the mother and child that someone was assuming something, that you would do something, and that if you felt uncomfortable, that makes me really sad.
I definitely think there was more that Chappell could do to kind of diffuse the situation. What would have been a real good solution to this problem is maybe have your team reach out to Catherine and her daughter and say, officially apologise, maybe offer you some merchandise or offer you a ticket to a show or something like that. When you have these two big public figures, and if you don't want your story and your side to get twisted, you kind of have to go to those extremes to make sure that the narrative doesn't get twisted. It's important to note, though, that whatever did happen between Chappell and Catherine and her daughter, Chappell and Catherine both clearly say that they didn't have any direct interaction with each other, so it's not fair to blame Chappell for another man's behaviour. But before Chappell could actually respond to this, there was a fake statement going around that looked like it had been posted on Chappell's Instagram story. I have seen the recent backlash and I have been receiving a lot of messages about the situation. I want to start by saying that I have always been very clear about my boundaries. When I am on stage, performing, in drag, at a work event, or doing press, I am working. Outside of that, I am not in work mode. I am a person and I am allowed to exist privately. I just woke up. I deserve my space, especially in moments like breakfast. This does not take away my gratitude and love I have for my supporters. I appreciate the people who respect boundaries and understand that admiration does not equal access. Respectfully, please understand that boundaries are not personal, they are necessary. This has been confirmed to be a false statement, but it just kind of goes to show what I just said. Chappell and her team had the opportunity to take this interaction, apologise, offer the child a ticket, whatever. Maybe she can meet her and say sorry, say hello, thank you for supporting my music. She could have taken this story before it got twisted, and that's exactly what happened. Somebody put out a statement before she could. It just makes the whole situation worse for Chappell. In an article published by Days titled "In Defence of Chappell Roan," to say that this situation has been blown out of proportion is an understatement. In the video she posted on Instagram, Roan stressed that the security guard who spoke to the young girl was not part of her personal security detail, and yet her critics are using this as yet another example of how she's a mean-spirited and nasty person who hates children. This is already a popular narrative that surrounds the 28-year-old. Back in 2024, she yelled at a photographer at the VMAs who was overheard telling her to shut the fuck up. The clip of her standing up for herself went viral as she screamed back, "You shut the fuck up, no, not me, bitch." Since then, Roan has stood her ground against invasive paparazzi and the creepy behaviour of entitled fans. Because she does not graciously accept the negative aspects of her profession, the self-abnegation, lack of privacy, the pretense of it all, she is seen to be a bitch with a capital B. This moves us on to my next point, which is, does misogyny play a part in this disdain? A lot of the criticism I have seen tends to focus on her not smiling at paparazzi, not smiling when she's at public events, being loud, or labelling her behaviour as aggressive, or even using profanity. And I would agree that a lot of this hate is rooted in seeing a woman be loud and aggressive. But I would also say that not all the criticism that Chappell has been facing does come down to the fact that she is a woman in an industry which historically favours and protects men. What the public and the media tend to focus on is how loud she is being about these issues. She is not the quiet or polite, docile creature the world wants her to be. It's important to ask ourselves that if all of this was happening to a male artist, would we be comfortable with the labels we attach to him, and would I even be making this video? I must acknowledge that my interest in this situation did come from a place of discomfort of watching Chappell be seemingly rude to her fans or to the press. It was a surprising feeling for me, and I think a feeling that a lot of other women have as well, and that's internalised misogyny. Internalised misogyny is defined as a sexism turned inward towards ourselves and outward towards other women. As we are socialised within our society, we inadvertently conform to the gender roles assigned to us. Maybe not on a huge scale, but on some level, maybe on a level that we're not even aware of. Hurrying away until we say or do something that surprises even ourselves. It's padded with these microaggressions, so while we might not know what this feeling is, we can feel the quiet weight of it in the pit of the stomach. So after I initially planned this video, there have been some interesting new developments to Chappell's drama. It's come to light that Chappell attended Grammy Camp, which is like a boot camp for rising pop stars or people who aspire to work in the music industry. So allegedly she attended this camp in 2014, which apparently cost about $3,000 a week. When she was asked about this camp in interviews, she described it as a summer camp, which I do think is very kind of telling for Chappell. She doesn't really want to admit what it was, and honestly it can really go a long way with anyone, especially when you are a pop star, because she would later go on to say in an interview, "Fuck the Grammys, it's just a talent show for rich people," but then said that she would still attend because she wants to honour her grandfather, who she named herself after. So if you don't know, Chappell's first name comes from her grandfather's last name, and Roan comes from his favourite song. Chappell Roan is meant to honour her grandfather, and she said that she would still go to the Grammys to honour him because she thinks he would be upset with her if she didn't, but she would do some sort of protest in either what she said or wore. And she did, actually. When she won her Grammy for Best New Artist, she talked about how when she was dropped from her label, she didn't have any healthcare and she couldn't afford to pay for it for herself. But then we've later found out that her grandfather is a multimillionaire, owns a lot of real estate, owns a huge golf course. So I'll include the full video here, and I'll also link it in the description so you can go and watch it for yourselves. That probably will be another video. There is a lot more to discuss there, but I think we have kind of gone over a lot today.
Did you guys know that Little Miss I Don't Want to Be Famous went to Grammys camp in 2014? It's $3,000 a week, and it's literally what she keeps referring to as summer camp, where she met all of her industry friends.
You met them at summer camp?
Yes.
Like summer camp?
Like art camp. Yeah.
When did you go to the summer camp? Was it
yeah, like 2015.
In New York City, I went to Grammy camp, worked with some really amazing, talented kids.
A few moments later.
The Grammys. It's a fucking talent show for rich people. I hope they hear this.
Yeah, fuck the Grammys submits work 8 times.
Thank you to my fellow nominees, and above all, my Papa Chappell, who I named myself after.
Her Papa Chappell, who owned an insurance company and was a multimillionaire and owned an absolutely massive golf course. When I say massive, I mean genuinely massive. His obituary states that he lived on and owned the golf course. And looking at the country club golf course's website on the Wayback Machine, I found an interesting page about real estate. So he owned not only this massive country club golf course thing, but also all these houses, these $500,000 houses, 20 fucking of them, that he sold to people, I guess, to live on this giant, rich Missouri compound. And there's a video of Chappell first signing her record deal, and the same grandfather is in the background, and I just find it hilarious that she loves going on about how she named herself after him, and she's this like feminist lesbian icon, but her entire thing is based around her extremely rich grandfather.
The meaning of my name is really important. It's my grandpa Chappell. He died September 22nd of 2016, and it feels good to know that like he got so successful. I feel like he's just like clapping from heaven right now.
You might have heard of him, the Strawberry Roan.
Roan was a reference to his favorite song. It's called The Strawberry Roan, which is about like a pinkish red horse.
This man had hundreds of millions of dollars. He owned planes. There was an airport right by the golf course and their house. Like, this was only 30 minutes away from where Chappell grew up. And one of her papa's sons, her uncle, is a conservative representative in Missouri who advocates against trans rights. And his daughter, who is Chappell Roan's mother, she's a veterinarian. They were able to buy a fully equipped hospital in 2002, like a mobile vet hospital. And then they bought a $760,000 brick and mortar vet hospital in 2014 when Chappell was going to Grammy camp.
Because I got signed so young. I got signed as a minor, and when I got dropped, I had 0 job experience under my belt, and like most people, I had a difficult time finding a job in the pandemic and could not afford health insurance.
I had management before I was signed through acting.
Oh, you were acting.
I was an actress before all of this. Actress, whatever.
Also in film acting. I've been in film acting class for about 2 years. I love film acting almost as much as singing.
While I am critical of Chappell, I am going to continue to enjoy her music. Because when you still have artists active and successful in the industry, like Chris Brown or Kanye West, Chappell Roan is the least of our problems. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed. Please tell me what you think down in the comments, and there might be a part 2 to this situation if more drama comes about, which it's the internet, so it probably will. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!